Gentlemen, as is my way when I speak in public, I always begin by giving thanks to Christ for everything I have. I thank my parents for legally immigrating here because I would not have had any of this in Mexico. I thank the United States of America for being just the best country on the planet, period. And I thank the United States Army because never did I think growing up in Baldwin Park that I would never thought I'd be in the Army. Never thought I'd be a paratrooper. Never thought I'd be Air Assault. Never thought I'd go to Korea. Never thought I'd be the chief of departments. Never thought that I'd have a year at the FBI, a year at the NSA, chief behavioral health officer at CIR, one of these classified things. In fact, Congressman Cisneros and I, our time overlapped at the Pentagon. My most honored role and humbling role was that of commander, and I served as a commander in Afghanistan. And in fact, I was promoted to colonel in Kandahar, Afghanistan, in July of 2013. So for me, it's all about leadership. I've worked very hard to get to this level of leadership. And as you all know, I'm a licensed clinical, forensic, aeromedical psychologist. So what to say this morning after I've done this long intro? As a leader, sometimes I say things that may be hard for people to hear, but I'm going to start with an appeal, and then I'm going to go to 2 policy issues to help the next generation of vets. The first isn't pleasant, but I'm compelled to say it. I don't think I could, if I didn't say it, I think I would not be proud of myself this evening. And here's the way to approach it. I get there's a lot of division in the Capitol. I get it. And sometimes we've got to make an effort to come together. And I want to talk about one specific person, and his name is Mohammed Sharifullah. This is a guy who was directly responsible for killing 13 service members, maiming another 42 service members, and killing over 170 Afghans. And he was also responsible for training up the terrorists who killed over 130 Russians outside of Moscow Stadium. And the president talked about this a few weeks ago. And my appeal was actually to the congressman. Sir, I get there's division and I get there's animosity. Sir, but when you can't stand up and applaud and give him credit for something that helps all Americans, that's wrong. And again, I've said it. My appeal to you is going forward to try to bring both parties together so that we don't have another 2 or 4 years that we go nowhere. That's my appeal to you. You're in my prayers, and I invite you to debate me before every city council before June 2nd of 26. So thank you for hearing me out on that. Let me move on to the next part of this. This is where the future matters. Here is a $100 bill, and this goes to the students, only students, no vets. Which one of you can give me a full background on the Baton Death March? Raise your hand. You can't use your iPhone? Give it a shot. Yes, sir. It's got to be an A answer for $100. Give it your best shot. Come on up. So one of the things I do when I take my 17-year-old to Chick-fil-A is, or in and out, anywhere, I literally ask them a history question. This is the first gentleman who has answered and given a solid, robust answer. right? As you all know, the Bataan Death March, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, they attacked the Philippines right after, and I won't go into the whole history because Commander Ramirez would throw me off stage. But on the march, after we could not hold out any longer in Bataan, because we had no ships and we had no air support because they were all over at Pearl Harbor under the water. But we lost 500 to 650 Americans on the march. If you couldn't keep up, they just bayoneted you or shot you on the side of the road. They hated the Filipinos so much. The estimates are that they killed 5,000 to 10,000 Filipinos between April 9th, the march actually began April 10th of 1942 to April 16th of 1942. And the others that this gentleman is speaking about are massive amounts died at Camp O'Donnell, which is a POW camp. I've only been there once. I'll be there again for the memorial on April 9th at Mount Samat in the Philippines. But there's a point here that's going to lead to my policy things to improve veterans. And here it is. Our schools do not teach history. This is American history. We have so much to be proud about, and almost none of our kids know our history. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. So here's my policy recommendations. Number one, let's talk about specifically vets and Social Security. When we have politicians, regardless of party, that engage in out-of-control spending, and over the past 4 years we had immense inflation, what happens is you don't get that concomitant increase in Social Security. So if inflation is 30%, you vets don't get an increase in 30%. So your quality of life decreases, and that's wrong. My recommendation to the Congressman is that we fight that if they're going to engage in out-of-control spending and there's 10% inflation, then your Social Security check should increase 10% for that year. That way you can maintain that quality of life that you've earned, right? That's point number one. We are the warriors of our society, and without us, our country would fall overnight. Point number two. California has spent billions on the train to nowhere. They're spending more billions on another train to Vegas when you can take a plane for half the cost to Vegas and a quarter of the time. So, massive spending. They've spent $26 billion on homelessness, and their approach is completely against the science of it, completely against the research. So they're literally pouring money into what they know will fail. But what they still do, even though this is the 5th largest economy on the planet, is they tax veterans' retirement pay. That is wrong. So they can spend billions of our dollars, but they still tax each of us on our retirement pay. That's wrong. And I'm personally going to reach out to the state representatives. This is a state issue, but sir, if you can help on this one, I'm happy to work together on you, even though obviously we're very different individuals. But they should not be taxing our retirement income. That's wrong. Third point, last point. If we look at the educational breakdown in the 31st Congressional District, big picture, take a step back. California, depending on the metric, is in the bottom 20%, bottom 40% for education at the high school level. It's terrible, which is shocking given the economy that California has. The only conclusion is that California doesn't value education. The odds of a student in this district getting an SAT score of 1,400 and a GPA of 4.5 is like less than 1%. It's ridiculously low. So where am I going with this? Number one, this helps our vets. We establish JROTC programs in every high school. And who's teaching these courses? Our vets. So that's something I've got to reach out to the state legislatures because it helps our students so that they can have honorable careers in the military. And it helps our vets because our vets are the most qualified to teach this. Concomitantly, what this state did, instead of making the high schools more robust, they made the junior colleges system, in theory, it was a stepping stone. In reality, 90% of students who attend junior colleges never go on to the four-year. They're a complete failure if your aim is to go on to the four-year. So what I'm going to work on with state legislatures is to establish ROTC at the junior college level, which doesn't exist right now. And what this would do, once again, it helps our vets because we have many younger vets who have the will and the mentoring and the motivation to teach the next generation of warfighter, whether they want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an infantry commander, an astronaut, a fighter pilot, whatever. And by doing that, then we attach these junior college or OTC programs to the 4 years, so we literally pull them up. That's how we improve the quality of life for vets who still want to remain active. In closing, I've got my literature. Most of you know I do free education and consultation. You're all important to me. If you know a vet who's got an alcohol problem or a PTSD problem and you want to get my thoughts, we may end up driving him or her to the emergency room. We may call 911 to hook them up and have them taken to the emergency room. But my dog in the fight is to help our vets. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, stay close to Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Last but not